Hi guys, welcome to Generation Mingle, where all the generation from the boomers to Gen Xers to Gen Z and Alpha and Millennials get together and having something important to say. Sometimes we argue, sometimes we're learning from each other. And my name is B. I'm your host, and welcome back, my co-host Suzette. How you doing, co-host?
I'm good. How are you today? Excited about this topic. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, we have been spoken prior to about AI taking the jobs and disappointment for all generation, and specifically the generation Gen Z has been very active on the TikTok. And we decide to continue and go in that direction to just discuss a couple of letters that we receive. And I spoke about this before, right, on our podcast, that we create that podcast to learn about each other and understand each other. And that didn't mean really strongly and very specifically that all the millennials, Gen Z and Alpha has to learn from the boomers or from us, the Gen Xers, okay? That was just mutual understanding and learning what everybody's going through, including AI changes or that whatever we have, fighting through our times. And I wanted to read one of the letter that make me think about this. Let's go approach that conversation different, because we have a lot of complaints, and I understand it is tough times, and we have complaints not only from Gen Z but from all generations. Everybody struggle currently, right? So this particular one is from Gen Z. So let's go start with that letter, and then we will take from there. Okay, dear Generation Mingle, I am 26. And like many people my age, I have spent a lot of time worrying about jobs, housing, AI, and what the future will look like. A few years ago, I thought success meant a six-figure salary, a big house, expensive vacation, and having everything figured out before turning 30. Today, I see things differently. Last week, 6 friends and I rented a small vacation rental on the beach and split the cost. We cooked our own meals, watched baseball and soccer, played cards, and spent hours talking without constantly checking our phones. It wasn't expensive, it wasn't glamorous, but it was one of the happiest weekends I have had in years. That experience made me realize something. Maybe our generation isn't for you. Maybe we are adapting. We are learning how to build meaningful lives in a world that keeps changing. We are learning that happiness doesn't always come from buying more. Sometimes it comes from stronger friendship, healthier habits, supportive families, and finding gratitude for what we already have. Yes, AI is changing the workplace. Yes, housing costs are challenging. Yes, the future feels uncertain. But every generation has faced challenges that seems overwhelming at the time. The difference is how we respond. Instead of living in fear, I want my generation to become informed. I want us to learn how our government works, understand the issues affecting our future, and participate in the decisions that shape our communities. We are concerned about AI, jobs, education, housing, or the economy. We have a choice. We can educate ourselves. We can advocate for policies that encourage innovation while protecting opportunity for future generations. The future isn't something that simply happens to us, it's something we help create. Maybe success isn't having everything figured out by 30s. Maybe success is learning how to adapt. Stay hopeful and keep moving forward while helping shape a better future for ourselves and generations that follow us. Jack.
Well, Jack, I think Jack is pretty mature for his age, honestly.
Extremely.
At 26 years old.
Right.
I think he's hit on a lot of important topics and understanding what's important in the world.
Right.
I think he's absolutely correct that I think as Americans, we've lost what true success is. People think that it is having a large salary,
Right.
being able to do whatever they want. And that is one of the things as you mentioned about us talking about learning from the different generations, I find it interesting learning about, as a Gen Xer, about the Gen Zs, the millennials.
Yeah.
Of course, I know a lot more about boomers because of being a Gen X. You're raised by
Absolutely.
the boomers,
Yes,
so
yes.
you kind of get it. But I think one of the things a lot of people don't realize is, like, my parents were 40, probably 45 years old when they bought their first house.
Yeah,
I think there's a misconception that people all buy their houses in their 20s right after they get out of school, that they get this great job, make all this money, and don't have any hardships. And that's really not the truth.
No, I think we're focusing so much on, all the happiness and the top of a la cream, that we don't see the other side, like you have mentioned, that not everyone was able to purchase home before the 30s, right? Not everyone have a home and a summer house on the lake or the cabin on the lake, right? That wasn't the case. Not everybody has a cabin on the lake in the boat that pull behind, right? So you have one or the other. There was the choices, right? Also, what kind of a house you have, right?
Well, and it also depends too what kind of income level you were born into.
And where you live.
Right.
The same thing. You could live in California and have a super income and, beautiful home because the income was different, and you live in Wisconsin or North Dakota and the house was a little cottage and income was different. So there was different scenarios, guys. I know that now have evened out, but what have inspired me to our topic, as we spoke before, was that, I don't see that really Generation Z have lowered the expectation, like our generation thinks, like the older generation, boomers and Gen X, are very critical to Gen Z. I think they're starting to discover what really is matter today, days, right? And again, I believe that they're adapting and seeing what's the American dream really is, how to navigate through the situations that we are in right now. And that most beautiful part of the letters was that we need to explore and learn what is going on and get informed how to approach that situation. And because we spoke about this, yes, guys, you all, agitated, right? And there's so much negativity out in the world, and has been for a very long time. Right now, and I'm not sure, are we got addicted to being negative at all the time, that nothing change? You need to do something to change something, right?
But I think the other thing too is, I think that human nature, it's easier to complain about the things that aren't
versus
going right for you, versus looking at all the things that are going well for you.
Yeah, we could call them not hypochondriac, but maybe complechoндriac. I don't know. But that's what momentarily I have seen, and I understand that the frustration, and it's easier to say than done. But is the time, and I have blamed before our generation. I believe that we have seen as the Gen Xers that the boomers have not done enough, and I blame our generation, Gen Xers, that we could do more, already seeing that something is not right. Because we spoke about this just short before the podcast, guys, that, we all get very excited when there's a presidential election. Everybody's going to vote. But this topic is over and over again on different channels has been, when it's the local election, there is not much interest.
Well, I think people don't realize that. I think there, again, is another misconception that the president is the end-all, be-all. And really what we fail to realize is that we live in 50 states, 52 technically, but we live in 50 states, and every state is ran separately. And so the people that are in our governments, in our states and our local districts,
counties even, right? Districts,
they are the ones that make the biggest change where you live.
What's affecting you personally.
On a regular basis.
So again, this is why I was influenced by that letter, that yes, guys, everyone out there, I think include everyone, boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Z, we have to get familiar with what you really want from life, what you want to accomplish. Do you want to have that house? Do you want to have a better job? Do you want to control the AI? Because right now it's out of control. They have open gates. There's no control whatsoever.
Well, there's no legislation right now.
Zero.
And
so you have to vote for
Right.
someone that will help you to regulate that and slow down the progress of AI and give you the time to adapt and find the jobs.
Right.
Anyway, right? So we also spoke about Declaration of Independence.
Right, because we're kind of at a time right now where if you understand how the Declaration of Independence came about,
Right.
we're kind of in that same time frame. I think a lot of times we forget that history does repeat itself.
Right.
And although that the boomers were raised in a different generation
Right.
and didn't have the things that Gen Z has now, that Gen Z thinks that their generation is harder. And I don't think that any generation is necessarily harder, because I think every generation is going to be raised in the means of what's happening in that generation.
Absolutely. We have to adapt.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so where I do find issues is when you actually pay attention, and I'm not a huge political person, I do try to pay attention to the
Right.
issues.
Right. The
But
issues that
what
interest
really-
you matter
yes,
to
but,
you,
But
right?
the big thing that really flabbergasts me is that there's still only about 50% of the entire population of the United States that actually votes. So when you think about that,
Right.
only 50% of our voices are being heard. And the
Doesn't
common,
make any sense.
and it
right?
doesn't
Yeah,
make any
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And what's even more frustrating is when you try to talk to other people about not even necessarily politics, but the things that are going on in the world, and that we need to vote and we need to find the people that are actually going to make change for us. There's so many people that are like, well, I'm not going to make a difference, so I don't vote.
Exactly.
And that's
you
where the
just
problem
nailed-
comes
yes.
in.
So back to Declaration of Independence. You know, quite frankly, let's go, all of you guys, be honest, right?
Right.
How many people have read Declaration of Independence? It's only 1,300 words.
Right.
Okay. And I don't think so. I don't think so that even 10% of people that I know read Declaration
Probably
of
not.
Independence. And you guys can hear it. I have accent. I'm European. And I did, because I was interested what is the country about. I became the citizens
Right.
of the United States. I wanted to know.
Right.
And what is amazing to me, when someone says, my vote will not do anything, will not change, is such a bogus to me, because guys, how dare you to do that to those people that wrote the Declaration of Independence, to those, if I'm correct, 56 people that signed the Independence of Declaration.
Yes.
You have to, guys, remember, we spoke about this before we start, that those people put their lives on the line to get rid of the
Right.
monarchy, the king from UK, to dictate us here in America what to do.
Right.
We wanted to run the country by people, for the people, by the people.
Right.
Okay? So those people put their lives on the line, because if the civil war we would lose, they will all probably die. Okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people
So-
were not living in,
Yeah.
they were living in what we would consider poverty today.
Right.
They didn't have fast food. They had to grow their own vegetables and make their
Well,
own
that's the
food.
beautiful thing. If you could,
Well, it
but
totally
if
is.
you live in industrial situation,
Right.
you live in completely mud. Let's go, not even go there.
No,
Nobody
right.
would realize that,
But
even, right?
But you have to think about 56 people that signed the Declaration
Right.
of Independence. How much they changed the American philosophy and dream
Right.
for 56 people.
Now we have to, yes, this is the number, right? But after I am a little bit geek. I love to learn, and all the input that I can get is just helping me to understand the country, the situation, and also myself and my friends and your guys' younger generation, so listen to us. So when we say 56 people, we have to remember that it was mass
Oh, sure.
involved.
Exactly.
So one of them that I think you all from high school, maybe not the middle school, right? That was a wife of John Adams, what is Abigail Adams, and she was the biggest political advisor to him. So just like in early marriage, we think the husband is the head of the family. She was the neck pointing him in the right direction. She was the first one that fight for the woman rights. And what's happened eventually, we as a females, we have finally the possibility, and don't tell me that the voting doesn't matter. Don't tell me that trying to educate and do something about it, like with the AI, if you guys want, you need to go out and vote to get that legislation going, right? You need to learn that because, listen, now we have a credit lines as a females. We were not allowed.
Right.
You could only receive a credit line as a female when your husband co-signed on your credit.
Right.
Okay, you could not buy home, you could not travel on your credit line. It's just ridiculous.
Right, and that's how we were able to get women's rights, because women, of course,
fight for it.
They had to fight for it.
Fight for it.
Just
and
like we need to fight for it
exactly.
too. And I think the other thing too, on top of that, is that if you don't really understand the political process, the numbers matter, because of the fact that the other aspect in government is that there's a lot of what we call lobbyists, that all of these rich people pay to vote against what we want. But I honestly believe that if the numbers are there, that if we were able to get at least 75% of all Americans to put their votes in,
absolutely,
I think that's going to change a whole lot.
Picture would be just flipping immediately.
And then the other thing is holding these people accountable. If they're in office for 2 years, 4 years, and they promise to do this, that, and everything else, and then they get into office, which we see a lot of, and they flip the script, those people need to be voted out the next time there's an election.
Now you press a button with me that I want to remind all of us, all Americans, all living here, okay? I want to remind you guys to Gen Alpha, if you listen to that on the side sitting next to your parent. Guys, president is not the almighty and never has been. We employ him. He's working for us. So is every other politician that you're deciding to vote for. So doing so, if they don't do the job, you have the right to fire them. Because quite frankly, if I am not going to work for a week and just will talk about this and not have a result, I will be on the sidewalk very fast, and so will be you and everybody else that we know.
Well,
okay?
I think people need to realize,
work for us.
Well, people need to realize the people that actually make the laws in this country is not the president. It's our congressmen. It's our senators.
Huge point.
The only thing the president does when it comes to laws is he has the ultimate power to veto a law.
Yes.
But if you pay attention again to politics, no matter what side you're on, he may veto a law, and it can go back right through the Congress and
what
the
we
Senate,
have seen right now, back and forth, right?
Right, and then they change some of the wording to make it to where they want to pass the laws.
Exactly.
And I think another thing people are not aware of is that when they make these bills and laws, it's not just one law that is in there. They throw in a bunch of laws.
Yes.
And I think that's another thing that we all need to be aware of, because my personal opinion is there is a lot of corruption in our government.
Absolutely.
And these people will throw in laws into these huge bills that seem like they're so great for the country, but then there's one little thing that's slid in there under the radar, unless you, of course, sit and read every bill, which we're not going to. And, that's where bad things come about. And then those things, of course, duplicate, triplicate, and become an even bigger issue because we're not aware of it.
Well, again, it's a lot of information to get involved in politics and get familiar. But guys, here's the good news. AI is out there. Ask those questions. Okay, ask questions AI. This is the tool that you can figure it out. And if you wanna, like majority of our viewers on TikTok, from boomers, millennials to Gen Xers and Gen Z, have complained about AI and the jobs and the situation and people working longer, yada yada yada. If you complain about this, you can stop that process. You
Right.
really can, okay? If you're truly interested, vote for the people who will create a regulation for the AI and not give the billionaires power to continue to do what they do
Right.
and become trillionaires.
Well,
Simple like that.
The other
right?
thing I think right now is I hear this a lot. I make this comment a lot. Everything right now is going up. Food, gas,
Yeah, in price,
groceries.
yes.
But the only thing that's not going up is our wages. So how do we change that?
Exactly.
We change
Again,
it by
by
the
voting.
people who we're voting for. Because
Absolutely.
they need to advocate for
Right.
us to make our lives better.
And I'm sorry, maybe sounds maybe too political for some of you, the podcast, because we're not involving ourselves too much in politics or our religion. But the point of the AI and current situation and the difficulty to survive from one paycheck to another paycheck, as so many of you have commented on that, this is the only way that we can change. And
Right.
like Suzette said, please, I don't want to hear it, my vote doesn't count. You guys take your responsibility. It's a beautiful country. Like I said, we have been fighting for, this not enslaving people, right?
Right.
We fight for the woman rights. We fight for the, GLB people. We
Right.
fight for that. We fight for women in military to be. We fight for nurses. Until today, we're still fighting for nurses, right?
Right.
To be actually professional, not non-professional, and so on. So there is an opportunity. You have the tools, and it's not a lot. Again, if you don't believe computer, talk to your local politicians a little
Right.
bit. Pull it up and send them short email. You're on those devices all day anyway.
Well,
Why not to do that,
and
right?
the other thing is,
Yeah.
I think that we also need to hold our fellow Americans accountable.
Yes.
We need to start getting our fellow Americans to understand that their vote does matter. Because
Yes.
if you have 200 friends and only 10 of your friends vote out of 200, think about that. That's 190 people that are,
Right.
their voices are not heard. And
Saying
yet,
that-
how can you sit and complain about what is happening in the world when you're not trying to make a difference? And that's
And-
where
yeah.
everybody knows that there's strength in numbers. So the more numbers that we have of voting people in or out depends on the amount of people that are voting.
Right.
So,
And the results that you guys want instead
Right.
of complain.
Right.
You need to do something about it.
Right.
I will make really quick metaphor very quickly for that. If I want to lose my pounds, I'm not going to be sitting in the chair entire Sunday. I'm going to go for the run. I'm going to be cautious what I'm eating to change that fact. So
Right.
we have to change that,
Right.
right? So saying that, I have a really great letter from Boomer that Suzette's gonna read, guys, and that was another part of that make me, talk about this topic and make that, podcast today, because please don't take that as an educational thing. That is really inspirational later. So if you don't mind, Suzette,
Right.
because we're almost running out of time.
dear younger generations, I'm a baby boomer and I've been listening to the conversations about AI, jobs, housing, debt, and the future. I hear the fear, I hear the frustration, and honestly, some of it's justified. But I want to remind you of something important. This country was never meant to belong to kings, billionaires, corporations, political parties, or technology companies. The United States belongs to its people. For nearly 250 years, Americans have argued, disagreed, struggled, adapted, and ultimately shaped the direction of this nation. Now it's your turn. If you worried about AI, learning how government actually works, now it's your turn. If you're worried about AI, learn how the government actually works. Learn what Congress does. Learn what the Senate does. Don't let outrage become your political strategy. Study the issues, ask questions, challenge assumptions, and then vote. If you want AI developed responsibly, support leaders who take the issue seriously. If you want stronger protections for workers, make your voice heard. If you want affordable housing, educational reform, or a stronger economy, participate in the process. Democracy isn't a spectator sport, it's a responsibility. And here's the good news. Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X now represent a powerful share of the voting population. Your collective voice is larger than you may realize. The future isn't something happening to you. The future is something you're helping create. Every generation inherits problems. Every generation also inherits the opportunity to solve them. As America approaches its 250th birthday, I hope your generation remembers something learned long ago. The most powerful people in this country are not the richest. They're the citizens who stay informed, stay engaged, and show up. You have more influence than you think. Take control of your future. Remember, all politicians, including the president, are employed by this country. You can let them keep the job or fire them. You've got this. A boomer who still believes in the power of the American people.
Just to put a little bit hints to it, that letter has been written by a teacher.
Oh.
That it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And obviously she have seen all the generations
Well,
for
and
years, right?
especially
that she grow.
teachers, they
Yes.
see
firsthand what's
the
going
horrible
on.
funding in
Absolutely.
our education.
Yeah.
We have all seen
Yeah.
how our education compared to other
Right.
countries is so much poorer.
And-
She's got a good point of view.
Yeah. And I think again back to thank you so much for that letter, because again it's very inspirational. And I know millennials and Gen Z do not like to learn from other generation. It's not about that. I know it's
Right.
easier again in your mind to say that get it done. Is not as big problem.
Right.
Okay, to get that done. Just
Right.
pull your energy, because you're fighting for your future, for your retirement, for
Right.
your being my age or the age of my mom. So
Right.
you guys have to pull together and put a little bit more effort into it
Right.
instead of complaining.
Although,
do something about it,
To
right?
be honest with you, some of the effort isn't really as much as some of the older generations, because with technology today, if you
It's
don't
much
like the way
easier to
things are,
educate.
you can email your
Right.
senators,
Absolutely.
congressmen. You don't
Yes.
have to sit down and write
You
an
have so
old-fashioned
much
letter.
easier.
You
We
can
don't have to go to library.
You can tell AI what
Yeah.
you want, and
Yeah.
AI will
Yeah.
draft the letter for you, and basically you review it, pick out and
Yeah.
fix
Or
what
that
you
tell
don't
you-
like,
or
and
that tell
send
you-
the email.
Or that tell you what senator does and what
Right.
other representative
Right.
does, because that's what majority people do not know.
Right.
What does people doing
Right.
for us, right? So again, think about this, right? That we have been really a society become addicted to being outraged and fearless and complainers. There's a time to change for that, okay? And again, there are so many people that don't vote because they think that one vote not count. Like Suzette said, please guys, think about this for a second. Get your stuff together. Go out vote. Every vote counts. I want to, guys, make sure to remind you that we are on the YouTube, TikTok, and so on, all the medias. I just wanted to ask you if you like the topics and you like to chip in and have a conversation and send on letters, please tell us so, make comments, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe. It's for free. Okay, guys, and thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you, Suzette, for coming in. Keep in mind, guys, like I always say, keep your Wi-Fi strong, your music loud, and your conversation just aggressive enough to still on talking to each other, okay, and keep on mingling.